We continue our journey through the book of spiritual economics. I want to welcome each and every one of you that are joining us up online today, because this is the last in our series on the book Spiritual Economics, written by Reverend Eric Butterworth, and the copyright date is 1983. So it's not a new book, but Unity considers it a great spiritual classic. Well, we're going to open today by actually looking into a section of the gospel that Butterworth talks about to begin our kind of conversation about this idea of giving. It may be a familiar passage to some of you. It's found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6. It's part of what we call the Sermon on the Mount, chapter 5, 6, and 7. In chapter 6, verse 24, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Many of us have heard that before. You cannot serve two masters. And you know, the other day I was thinking about this particular passage, and I thought to myself, you know, historically speaking, the people who would have been sitting on the hillside listening to Jesus might not have gotten it. And here's what I mean by that. They were peasants. They were poor. Money as a medium of exchange really was for the elite, the Roman, the wealthy. People that were sitting on the hillsides would have said, hey, I'm a farmer. I mean, I bartered with 2 chickens and, a couple of cords of wood. I don't really know anything about money. So what happens is, as Jesus is saying this, they're dismissing it. They're kind of letting it go by. Well, it doesn't apply to me, you see. But Jesus is a master teacher. Jesus is not one to say, well, it's for the exception. No. He says it for all. And so it seems to me that we can't just read that little phrase and be done with it and think, oh, we cannot serve two masters, money and God. Okay, that's all it needs. Jesus raised the ante. He made us step up an awful lot farther in the very next paragraph. He says, do not worry about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body or what you shall put on. Is not clothing more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more valuable than they? And which of you, by worrying, can put 1 cubit to your span of your life? And why are you worried about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field and how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed as one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O men of little faith? Therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has worries its own. Let today's own troubles be sufficient for the day. Do you see how he shifted? Because everyone that was sitting on that hillside 2,000 years ago, to everyone sitting in the pews, and myself included, right here and right now, we worry. We worry. We worry about our health. We worry about the times. We worry about money. We worry about our investments. We worry about many, many things. And Jesus literally took the concern that people had, it's either God or money, and he said, no. Step farther back. It isn't about money. You serve worry. And all of a sudden, it encompassed everyone sitting there. It encompasses everyone sitting here. We worry. And so what Jesus is really saying to us is, you can only serve one master, God or worry. God or worry. Somehow, the passage becomes much more real, much more relevant, much more timely. As we look into Eric Butterworth's book, he talks about this definition of worry, which I had never really thought about. And one of the things about spiritual classics is that they're relevant today, and they're relevant when they were written, and they're going to be relevant 50 years from now. Maybe we need to change the language a little bit. Maybe we need to switch examples. But in reality, the basic fundamental truth is still the same. And so he says that worry is actually control. Now, I never thought about worry as control before. I didn't ever think of that definition, but when I thought about it, it seems to me that it's true. When I think my life is in control, you know, that feeling when you come out of the doctor's office for your annual checkup and they say, you're good to go, and you're like, see you in another year, doc. Man, that's a real empower. I don't have any worries, right? And when my checkbook balances right to the penny, woo, Bank of Oklahoma is happy, and I am happy. And I feel in control, and I feel powerful. And I don't have any worries. But you know what? It's only a momentary thing, because it's only a matter of time where something shifts and something changes. I shared with you a couple weeks ago that a very good friend had come through Tulsa. She had retired and planned to spend some time traveling throughout the United States. She stopped here in the early spring, and she said, oh, Marianne, I have to go home and check in with the family and get my annual checkup, and life is good, and I'm on the road, and I'm having a great time. And she just looked great, and she was having a wonderful time. And then I got a text. That mammogram wasn't clean. What happened to that confidence? What happened to that sense of, I'm in control of my life? It went exponentially through the roof to worry. You know, it is something that we grapple with all our lives. Maybe right now you don't really have anything to worry about, but it's so fragile is what I'm trying to say. And it's like her, she was just traveling around, having a wonderful time, feeling pumped. It was great. She had the money, she had everything, all her ducks in a row, or so she thought. And suddenly the carpet was taken out from under her. You know, last week we talked about how when Eric Butterworth wrote this book in 1983, now I'm looking around and I see that probably we were all living at that time, which means that it was not that long ago, all right? He writes this book with these spiritual truths in them, and how we have seen our society change and morph and grow, and how at the very same time we have seen worry and concern exponentially grow with it. So last week we talked about how since 1983 we have seen this tremendous shift in the, I'm going to call it the movement of society. Everything is much faster. Communication is instantaneous. In 1983, nobody raised their hand last Sunday that they had a cell phone. Nobody, was saying, wow, I've got to be, even thought about programs like American Idol. But we see this in our young people, is what's happening is they want to make an impact in life, but because life is getting faster and faster and faster, they've lost sight of the fact that something may take a long time. It may take a long time to find fine-tune our skills. It may take a long time to overcome our worries and our concerns. It may take a long time of investing everything we have in our talent and our gifts to see them materialize. So we use the example of the American Idol winner, Darcy Lynn Farmer, from last year from Oklahoma City, and our own other Oklahoma girl, Reba Hughes, who's been a long... Reba, that's an old friend. Well, okay, let's go back over that. Reba, what's her name? Reba. We just call her Reba, and everybody knows. All right, let's just get... Woo! Okay. I got like 4 circuits running here, and apparently they're not coming together real well today. I'm somewhere heading off to England, but okay, I digress. Anyway, but think of how that impacts us as a society and how that impacts our children. This is something very critical because we see today more and more suicides at 10, 12, 14, 15 years old. You haven't even started to live anything yet. Why are our children on medicine for anxiety and depression in high school? In high school, I was having too much fun to be depressed. Why are we not having fun anymore? And it seems like we aren't having fun anymore. It seems like we're cowering under the weight of this tremendous fear and doubt and worry. And so it affects everything we do. And the reason I bring this up is because it's such a subtle thing that infiltrates us. I recognize myself. I want something to happen quicker. I want to Google it and see what time it is. I want to take care of this, and I want to pay my bills online. I don't want to stand in line. I'm like, what? There's 2 people in line. I should have ordered it from Amazon. You know, and we have this impatience that's starting to build into itself. And as a result, what we're losing track of is how we are working toward a greater realization of God's working in and through us because we're so externally involved. So Butterworth is telling us over and over and over again that we need to be open to give. Now, on one level, certainly the book is somewhat about money. But that's not really its essence and its core. What he's really, really talking about is how we give from a consciousness of giving. That it is the very core and essence. And folks, I want to tell you, just to give, whatever it might be, give of your time, give of your money, give of whatever, it's always, or it's many times from what I'm going to get in return. Well, you'll like me if I give you this, or this will make the kids happy if I give them this. And it's not truly from a consciousness of love and giving. It's not from something deeper within us. Because you see, when we give, all too often, we begin to feel the lack that comes with it. Let's face it, if I hand you $20, that means I've got $20 less, right? I mean, that's just math. But when I can see it as a gift, then I am open to receive it coming back. And I recognizing that that flow is how we work together in oneness and in harmony. But what stops that flow is that worry. What stops that flow is when we get into the world around us and we begin to look up and we struggle and struggle and struggle. Because as we're seeing things happen faster and faster and faster, as it's coming to our face faster and faster and faster, it's harder and harder to assimilate, isn't it? It's harder and harder to deal with. And to say, wow, how can I deal with this? The normal default is we worry. We worry. We worry about things. We worry about people. Part of the reason I will share with you that I've got 4 tracks running at one time is because I got a Facebook post this morning from my cousin in Pittsburgh. And I, quite frankly, I'm struggling with it a lot. It makes me worry. It brings me out to everything that wants to make me feel angry and make me feel like that I am powerless to change or do something. It makes me feel like something so far away came right up close and personal, as she shared with me that they lost a friend, that they knew many, many people who had gone to the synagogue as they were in school together. And when I pulled up the map, because I had gone to college there, I thought, where is Squirrel Hill? And on the map was my university, and the very next borough was Squirrel Hill. And suddenly it all came very real. And I thought, I don't know about you folks, but since 1999, the Columbine shooting, there's times I don't like to come to church, to stand up here and feel that pain. People say to me, oh, aren't you worried about going overseas? No, I'm worried about going to Orlando, to Sandy Hook, to San Bernardino. I'm worried about going to Jacksonville. I'm worried about going to town. I'm worried about going to those places that are right here in our own country, and they're only getting worse. And so I have to say to myself, in light of what we talked about, Jesus says, do not worry, seek the kingdom of God. How am I supposed to do that? How are you supposed to do it? Today, as we watch the news, as we feel that heart tug again and again and again. We are people of faith, my friends. We have a different answer. Our answer is not more violence. Our answer is something deeper that we've got to really work, I believe, in situations like this especially, to really get into the heart and core of who we are. When Jesus said, seek first the kingdom, sometimes it's like, seek first the kingdom. I can't wrap my hands and arms around that verbiage. And when Eric Butterworth says we have to come from a giving consciousness, again, maybe I just can't put my arms around that. So maybe what I would say to myself and to all of us today is we can't zone out. That's it. We go, wow, that's tragic. And then we say things like, well, I wonder when the next time will be. Or that was bad, but it wasn't all that bad. And then we wait for the next bad, even worse and even more. And so I struggle with this worry because I see it happening more and more and more. Don't you struggle with this worry too because you see it more and more? You know, we don't let our kids, when I was a kid, we walked to school. Mom said, there's the door, there's the school, start at it. We don't, I live in a complex that's not very far from a school, and people literally drive their kids from the door of their complex to the gate where the bus picks them up. And I think, why would you do that? Let them walk, let them get some fresh air. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with worry. What is going to happen to my child between my door and picking them up at the bus? I want to control everything, and the truth is we cannot control anything. And the sooner we get to the understanding that, no, we cannot control anything, that's when we can begin to seek new answers. That's when we can say, okay, it is not about control. Worry is control. When I'm in control, I don't worry. When I'm out of control, I worry. We don't have to live that equation. But the challenge is, what's the other equation? Seek first the kingdom. Give from a giving consciousness. So here's our challenge. When we talk about building consciousness, when we talk about being one who seeks the kingdom of God, people of faith, then we have to ask ourselves, where does that reside within us, if not in the heart? Where is it that we sort of connect in sort of a metaphorical way as well as a physiological way? We feel that sensation of the love of God in our heart. But you and I have to work toward understanding what that is. You see, just like we talked about in the meditation, when I breathe in all of us. And when I breathe out, I breathe into all of you. Now think of that, yes, in this room, but think of it farther into this town, into this community, into this world. When I breathe in, I take something from all of you, all of the world. And when I breathe out something into the world. So my question is, what are you breathing out into the world? Are you breathing out the fear and the doubt and the worry? Are you breathing out love and peace? Because, ultimately to me, it's a question and an issue of oneness. We believe we are separate. The more we believe we are separate from them, whoever them may be, the more we have to worry about them because they're different. And we have to be afraid of different. And so our work today is going to be a real powerful mixture of being in the receiving of that pain and that sorrow and that suffering. Not so that we can live in pain and sorrow and suffering. That's not what I mean. The example of Jesus is simply this, that when we breathe in that sorrow and suffering and pain, we transform it to the world. Where our world disconnects is that it thinks that sorrow, pain, and suffering, I've got to make you suffer worse than I suffer, and then I will feel better. It is not true. It is not true. It will only happen when I breathe in that suffering and I hold it and become, as Henry Nouwen would say, the wounded healer. I breathe it in. I bless it with peace. I bless it with love. And more importantly, I bless it with one. With one. Can you today give as much thought, prayer, and love to the one who did the crime as the one who suffered? See, if you cannot, then you haven't gone all the way to one. And this is our work. This is what Jesus said. When you see me, you see the Father. What he's talking about is we are one. It's a oneness. We say it every Sunday. There is only one presence and one power. That does not say except fill in the blank. And it's hard work, folks. Nobody ever said, well, this is going to be easy. It's a real challenge to step back and to say, all right, I'm not going to disconnect. I'm going to feel that pain. I'm going to feel it in my heart. I'm going to feel it in my being. I'm going to feel it in my soul. Maybe I feel it more because, yes, I'm connected to family and friends who are truly feeling it in a much more real way than I am. But I can feel them in my soul. I don't have to read the news about how awful it is. Do we have a heart for God or do we not? And a heart for God means we are one with that suffering. And if I can bring it in, if you can bring it in, and we can all bring it in and hold it tight until it really, really hurts. And then we know at the same moment, we let it go. And somehow it is transformed. Somehow a Mother Teresa comes. Somehow a Gandhi is born. Somehow a Martin Luther King Jr. comes into the scene who is never seen before and leads us and guides us. Not because he or she was anything special, but because there's a groundswell that we are behind and saying, we are one. We are one. So today, as we sort of end our time in this book, about giving and receiving. It's so important to understand where that givingness comes from, where that love abides. It isn't something that we just have and don't have. Today I love, tomorrow I don't. It's a consciousness of love. It's a consciousness of good. And maybe those words don't resonate, but maybe you can say it's a consciousness of one. No one is separate from me. Nothing is apart from me. It is one. I am one. God and I are one. So today, let's not be so quick to watch the news, because all that does is build your worry, doesn't it? All that does is build your fear. Now, remember, I'm not saying, well, just, you don't watch the news, you don't have to know what's going on. My thing is, get into your heart, and then you'll never have to watch the news because you'll already know what's going on. Maybe you don't know where, but you will feel. You will feel that disconnect. There's a disconnect somewhere in the world, and my heart seeks to give out and to embrace. And in the moment as I give is the very same moment I receive. And as I send out love, the law tells us that it comes back to give us the grace and the blessing. Let us not be so quick to divorce ourselves from the hurt, or to be quick to find solutions and talk about the other as the other. We were all injured. All of society, all of our world. And how do we hold that strong in our hearts? It is an act of the greatest and probably most difficult forgiveness you ever do. To say, I love you, I bless you, I forgive you, I do not understand you, I hold you accountable for your actions, but I must forgive you because it is the law, it is the flow. So let's go forth in today knowing that these spiritual classics still live on. The spiritual challenges still live on, whether they were written 2,000 years ago or 35 years ago. That it is our job and it is our place to really embrace a consciousness, to be open-hearted, to feel the pain, to know the transforming power that truly only love and grace and God can give. Thank you for joining me today, and God bless.